Call the monthly meeting of the Port of Siuslaw to order for Wednesday, March 18th. Commissioners, approval of the agenda. Anybody have any questions concerning the agenda?
Move we approve the agenda as printed.
Was that a motion, Jay?
Yes, it was.
It was a pretty quiet one.
I move we approve.
That's more like it. Do I hear a second? Somebody? Terry?
Nancy, I thought you were going to, but I will second the motion.
Thank you, Terry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the agenda's been approved. One thing out of the way. All right, approval of the minutes. I presume everybody's had a chance to read the minutes of our last meeting. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes?
Move we approve the minutes as printed. Submitted.
Second?
I will make a motion to second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next thing up is remarks from the citizens.
Do you
If
want
you
to,
have,
on the agenda, it does say the presentation. Do you want to say that that has been canceled?
okay, the presentation by Mark Brennan about Cape Foul weather is not going to be made tonight. Now we'll have remarks from the citizens, if anyone signed in. This is your opportunity to say something to the commission.
The first name on the list is Ann Cables? Cables. Cables? Cable. Okay, thank you. Come on.
You can come up here if you want, or you can stay back there. It's up to you.
I'll use my big voice.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak for the cormorants of the Siuslaw River. Cormorants are migratory birds protected by the Federal Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1918. There are 3 species of cormorants feeding in the river: double-crested, pelagic, and brants. The brants and pelagic cormorants do not nest along the Siuslaw, as they prefer rocky cliffs over the ocean. Double-crested cormorants had 38 nesting pairs last year on the south side of the river at Cushman. The colony is being monitored by U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. The total cormorant population, 1,200 birds, as reported in the Siuslaw News, is made up of all 3 species of cormorants feeding in our river. Numerous birds are fish eaters in our river: loons, bald eagles, osprey, tufted puffins. The economic impact would be dramatic if bald eagles or ospreys or puffins were terminated for being fish eaters. Cormorants are not particularly attractive, but they are an integral part of our natural world. Thank you.
The next person that's signed up is Joe Holson.
I guess I'm representing probably 39 groups, and these are what you call the December members. And I was here when Ron DeGroot and I also testified, was it 3 years ago, I mean?
September of 2003.
Yeah, 2003, and
13.
we gave our reasons, 13, yeah. Well, we gave our reasons why it was profitable for the port and the town and community to have December members, because we stayed long-term. And I've looked at this and tried to figure out other things, other ways that this has impacted people, and I probably spent a total of $6,000 here in 2 months' time. I buy my groceries here, I buy my gas here, I eat at Jay's, I buy bait from him, I eat downtown at least twice a week. I'm a part of this community for 2 months. Other people are part of this community for more. And I hear there's trying to do away with the December members, and I haven't figured out why yet. There are a few people that are griping. I would like to know how many of a percentage of people that are griping that are not getting the spots they want. Anybody tell me that?
You go ahead and present. This is not an
Because I had to spend my time here. I had to move in different locations and different times during the year to become one of these members to get a decent camp spot. And I'm not talking down on the river. And I've kept my end of the bargain up. I've come every year, my 9th year. Some of my friends have been here for 18 years. Ron, a good friend's been here for 15. Bill's fished this river for 30 years. And he's 86 years old, getting married next week, and he's planning on coming back
Wow.
here. And so I think we're an integral part of the community. And other part from that, a December member, is the rate increases. And I'm looking out to see what kind of value I would have for raising the rates. Because right now, the rates, nothing has changed in my campsite for 3 years at least. Nothing. Nothing's been graded, not a bit of gravel, nothing. Where are the upgrades if I'm paying extra money? This is not Winchester Bay 5-star resort. They have concrete pads. They're paying $1,000 a month, right, this next year? Okay? But that's a private enterprise. That's not supported by any tax dollars. That's why they can charge whatever they want. I just looked into it. I called them today and I asked them those questions. Their moorage down there is a lot less than here. 550 slips. They could do whatever they want. That's also a private enterprise, not supported by any groups. But I can get a 70 to 74 foot slip down there for $324 a month. I just asked him today. For a yearly sport fisher person like myself, for a 24 foot slip for a year, one full year, $936. And you want to raise this to $337 a month? What upgrades have been done there? Nothing. Not since I've been here. For 9 years, there have not been an upgrade down there. It's bad enough walking through all the bird crap just to get to your boat as it is now. So I'm trying to justify where these things are coming from. You can go to Salmon Harbor down there for self-contained camping for $270 to $360 a month. Discovery Point Resort. They have no summer rates. They have September and October rates are $450 a month. And in November it drops down to $375. Okay? Fisherman's Marine RV Park, $325 a month for full hookup. They give you one RV, 2 vehicles, 1 boat per site.
You need to wrap up. Your time's just about up.
Okay? I'm just trying to get an idea of where the value is coming for the rate increases that you're proposing and why there can't be this December group. Because it adds to this economy more than any other. What you've got is that people, if you take care of the people you have now, you'll be better off in the long run than trying to recruit new people. The reason this port has increased its revenue in the last 2 years hasn't been because of what's been done out here. It's been because of the great weather we've had over the last 2 years. You let it rain like it normally does here in October, there are not going to be near as many campsites as there has been the last 2 years.
We have to call it time now.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Janine Strain?
I'll just stand right here. I'm also want to talk about the moorage rates. I don't get a campsite here, but I am a landowner in Florence, and so I do pay moorage fees. The increase that's being proposed, in my eyes, is not acceptable. You want to change the rates, and the rate increase basically for me is 250%. So it goes from $132 a month to $337 a month. That is a huge increase. And I'd like to, support what Joe said. There haven't been improvements down there. In fact, we got really excited because a few years ago the docks were put out there because more moorage sites were supposed to come online, and that has yet to happen. And I guess it's my understanding it may never happen now. The other thing that I would like to talk about is also the December group, because I'm part of that group, and it's taken me many years to get my moorage spot. The group of December people are getting old. We're dying off. And I personally know several people that have died. And so eventually, the December group will be no more, and I guess I would encourage the port, if you're going to change something in the policy of reservation, perhaps it could be to start to phase that out. But for the people that have been loyal customers for years and have put hundreds of thousands of dollars into this economy, when other people weren't coming here because they didn't have. In 2008, I sat up in that condo and watched the economy go in the toilet. In 2009, there were hardly any people here. But the same old people came back, and they came back. So I think loyalty should be recognized. Forbes in November 1st, 2012 had an article about the cost of acquiring a new customer versus retaining one. It's anywhere from 5 to 7 times more expensive to acquire a new customer than it is to keep one. So if you have people that rent for 2 months, once we go and see these wonderful women in the office, we do our reservation, and pretty much it's done. You take and start to get new people in here on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whatever, their work increases. And you've lost really loyal customers. So I would like the port to really consider the people that have been loyal to the port all these years, and to think about the cost increases. I know my wage didn't go up to 150%. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
The last person is Diane Petrie? Petty, sorry.
Good evening. This is regarding the possible reduction or elimination of the double-crested cormorant colony on the river across from Cushman. I have led numerous birdwatching tours and trips to Florence and the surrounding area for organizations like the American Birding Association, Lane County Audubon Society, and Portland Audubon Society. These birdwatchers come from all over the world, including the US, Canada, England, Europe, and beyond. These people want to see all of our birds. They spend money in our community, and they tell their friends and their organizations to come back. I encourage you to consider leaving the cormorants as they are. Thank you.
Okay, remonstrance from the commission. Bill?
I'd like to have the bird people expand a little bit about how is the port involved in this issue? Could you stand up and, just let us know, what is the Port of Siuslaw?
Last month.
The article in the paper
Yes,
after your last meeting said that, I have it here.
well, just extemporaneously clue us in as a group what this is about,
They don't know, okay.
as a group. I was not here last month, and I apologize, but I would like to know in my remonstrance period, just a couple of sentences.
Okay. The paper stated that there were 1,200 cormorants feeding in the river. They were each eating a pound of fish, and indicated that it was probably salmon or salmon smolts, and that they were across the river killing the trees, and the guano smelled.
But the question is, how is the port involved?
Well, it was what came up in
Okay,
In
but
the
during our
paper.
meeting.
in the meeting.
Oh,
And
about
that
the
you-
island.
I would like to address that.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We'll take it back here to the
Okay.
board. Thank you.
I'd like to address that. The cormorants are a federally protected bird. The Port of Siuslaw has no intention of interfering in the least bit with, and we have no jurisdiction to do anything with the double-crested cormorants or any of the other cormorants. They're more than welcome to be here.
Yay! Yay!
as far as the port is concerned.
Thank you.
It's
You
not,
bet.
it's not our authority, is what I'm understanding.
Right.
It's not within our authority. So,
Well,
so good, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And I'm sure we'll talk about the December.
Yeah,
meeting.
some of the other things
Yeah,
later.
So I won't
Yes,
go into the
we will
ministries.
discuss the December group later, and possibly the fees for the, I think is on here also, for a rate increase. So we will discuss that later. So moving on, where are we? Financials. Everybody get a chance to check the financials. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve the,
I make a motion that we approve the financials as printed.
okay, we have a motion to, and a second to ratify the bills paid in February for $60,801.59.
That's what I said.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Under old business, we are going to discuss the rate increase.
This first resolution is just some housekeeping. It is to amend the previous resolution that consolidated all of the rates into one document and to give it sections. So when we do approach a rate increase, we don't have to involve the entire document. We can refer to specific sections. So that is all this resolution is for.
Okay. Any discussion?
So this first resolution has all the current rates.
It has the old rates, and all it does is section, if you see what the resolution reads, the first
Sure.
section is campground, second is parking fees, third is storage, fourth is moorage, 5 is service rates. So it
puts
just
them all-
breaks it down
Yeah.
into categories and identifiable sections. And that's all it does.
Good job. I move approval of the resolution 03-1815A. It's basically a housekeeping.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to open our public hearing concerning campground and moorage rate increases. Staff.
Well, this is an opportunity for anyone who has not already spoken in the public remarks section to step forward and give the board any comments they might have on the upcoming resolution to increase the rates. Is there anyone in the audience who,
Joe, would you like to give some more input?
Yeah, I would, if we could. If you don't mind.
this is your opportunity?
Give the public the opportunity.
Sounds good to me. First of all, on the rate increases, I guess, where are we coming up with the numbers? Why we would increase it to that much?
The numbers come from the staff, with the staff recommendation. So I'd have to ask the
The
staff,
entire staff or administrative staff or?
administrative staff, I
Okay.
believe.
Well,
Here.
with the approval of the port manager.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chair, with respect to the process here, perhaps you can state the questions, the staff can then write them down, and then once we hear public, the end of the public input, we can then answer the questions. Is that favorable to everyone?
Okay.
Because otherwise, we're going
It's
to
a
have this
hearing, yeah.
dialogue back and forth. And
Yeah,
it
and that will
gets
take more
to-
time, I
yeah.
understand that. So that's why I guess I'm looking, I looked and I've made these calls just today at the other spots and stuff to get comparable values. Not apples and oranges, but oranges and oranges.
Mhm.
And so, there again, we're looking at trailer parking is gonna be part of this whole issue. It's a premium now to find a place to park your trailer, whether it be for this place or here.
Yeah.
I'm paying $337 a month. I want an assigned spot. that says this is Joe's spot to park his trailer.
So you're interested in knowing where do we get the numbers and also about the December members?
Exactly.
Okay, so,
Because it's all tied in together with so many of us. There are 39 out of 101 sites
right,
that are December members. That's pretty darn good loyalty.
okay.
And so, there again, I want to know how many people are disagreeing, or are they disagreeing because they want just the B row? Well, I'm probably one of the younger ones at 66. And so, we already know Lee died 2 years ago. And so there's a spot. Joe and, little Joe and Mary are not coming back in 2016. That spot there, which is in the inner circle, has been open since January. Nobody had taken it till the end of February, when Rick decided to take that one. They're there. Nobody's applying for them.
So your two issues are rendered down to how did the cost increase come about and whether or not we should keep the December members?
Yeah, and what value are we getting out of these cost
Right,
increases?
right, okay.
We're not getting any that I've seen.
I think we're going to address that during our
Okay.
debate here.
All right? I don't want promises that are made. I want to see what's in hand.
Yeah,
Okay? Thank you.
yeah.
So anyone else? I think you can close the public hearing.
I'll close the public hearing, resolving the campground and mortgage rate increase. Discussion?
This is all just discussion tonight.
Well,
Or
Well, we have a
this-
resolution.
This
We
one
have
is a resolution.
to approve.
well, do we respond to Mr. Holzenbach on his questions?
Yes.
Well, I think
would
one
like-
of them is how did we get to this as far as the cost?
Someone mentioned an increase of 150%. Is that- I don't-
250%.
Right, I don't see that. These are in the last couple of meetings, you were presented with the rate increase proposals. And
Right.
so you had time to review that. They have also been put on the website for
Is that
public.
this one? This is the,
Janine, if I may, you said 132 old to what was
337.
337? I don't, okay,
There's 337.
337 is for GDOC, but I don't believe 132 was, well, let me check my,
20 foot and under.
20 foot. I have it right here.
132.
Still 132.
I believe one of the issues was that the 24-foot slips and the 40-foot slips on GDOC became consolidated into one GDOC price. And so the 24-foot slip I have down as 176.
Okay, I misspoke. Yeah, you're right, I just saw that. Yeah.
132.
But it's still 176 to 337. Mhm.
Yes. That was a large,
It's huge.
very large increase.
I think the mentality of the rates when Bob and I talked about raising the rates, we looked at the daily rates, the weekly rates, and how they all came to be. So your daily rate of $12 times 4 is the weekly rate. And so you get 3 nights free. So what we did was we looked at the campground rates where you're paying for 6 nights and getting 1 night free. So I think what was discussed here was increasing that to where it paralleled the mentality of the campground rates,
No consistency.
where they became more consistent.
Consistent.
And then there was I believe a discount overall, a 25% discount. Are you looking at that?
Yeah, 25% discount.
So,
May I
do you
say
care to
something?
add? Yes.
The, Did you guys look at mortgage rates up and down the coast and compare to those mortgage rates?
Yeah, we continually do, yes.
They're not even close.
But, and we called on Winchester Bay today and the mortgage rates are much less.
Much less.
Well,
And what was the,
What they are currently,
a 70-foot slip for a 70-foot boat
70 to 74 foot,
was 300
$324 a month.
now many marinas have two sets of rates, commercial and recreational. Is that
when
just
they
the
get
one
over a certain
overall?
size.
Because commercial is usually less than,
Sport fishing rate was $936 for a year. You want that in 3 months here. It's not even close.
and that was Salmon Harbor? The,
Yes.
Salmon Harbor is the county.
well, I know that there was some research done prior to this. This was not, these were just numbers not taken out of the sky, but I don't have that documentation.
Yeah.
What?
Where that is?
Well, staff
Yeah, we
prepared
have tons
that.
of it, but it's not,
We don't
not
have
going to be
it,
sitting here
right.
for this conversation.
And
Can
if
we table this?
we can,
And
You guys have
take
to approve the
these
rates
things under
anyway.
consideration and look at it again next month?
I think we need to put some specifics into requesting staff to come back with some comparative rates and also some internal justification for how we are structuring this, coming from the current, which is broken down by slip length, to a not slip length, to a basically day, week, month. I'd like to see sort of a
Sure, we have.
a synopsis of your thinking that
Absolutely.
got us to this point.
Sure.
And then we could probably have a better discussion as to whether these rates are appropriate or not.
Good. Yeah.
So I would say that we should table the motion. I make a motion to table this until next month,
Second.
and then have staff come back and give us a more detailed breakdown of how they reached this conclusion and perhaps some alternative,
We'll
Scenarios.
We'll send it to you electronically so you have it before the meeting.
yeah,
Okay,
that would be good.
So you can do some.
all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay. Now we are to new business. The discussion of campground reservation policy, proposed changes. That you, Dina?
yes. On this issue, there are three things to address. The first thing is we discovered that our reservation software does not coincide with our reservation policy. In other words, the policy as it stands right now says that people, now that we are in 2015, people can reserve to the end of 2016, to December 31st. The software actually has X amount of days in its parameters. It only knows 365 days, 90 days, 120 days, whatever time frame you give it. So the problem is right now, we can say, well, Mr. Smith, you can only reserve up into January 31st, or excuse me, December 31st. But if somebody goes online, they can book for January, February, and early March. This is not a problem right now, but as we get into the summer season, that does become a problem because people will find out that they can that they can actually do this reservation online. So
This is the tie-up slots during the high season,
Mhm.
and what's the downside to that?
Well, basically, if we are telling people that they can't reserve past December 31st, 2016, and somebody goes online and is able to, then once we get past roadie days and 4th of July, people can actually book when we're telling them they can't.
So we really don't have a membership program that requires a username login and some sort of track record that establishes the legitimacy of their long-term loyalty. So our software does not have that feature.
Our software only knows what it's
365.
programmed to do.
Yeah, okay.
So the recommendation is to bring that into a closer time frame, a much less time frame. And we were actually looking at, instead of 2 years ahead, we looked into it, and a lot of government-run campgrounds, their parameters are more of the current season or the current year. We're looking at proposing 6 to 9 months ahead, so that when people call and make their reservations, they're calling in the off-season for the for the busy season. This also will help the front office when they're busy in the summertime with people checking in and wanting to reserve for next year. They won't be able to reserve for next year. They'll have to wait until January or February and call in. Does that make sense? Are you following me?
Yeah.
So there's a argument that because we are a quote government entity, we should not extend the same courtesy to long-term users that a private campground would naturally provide.
I don't think that has anything to do with this issue. This is a programming issue and a policy
But you
issue.
did mention that you contacted other government campgrounds, and this is their
Oh, yeah,
parameters.
because I was just curious
Right.
of how they, what they do. You know,
Just
since-
comparing
just
like
comparing,
Honeyman,
right,
the ones that are here.
the Oregon State Parks.
So the
and
question is, should we operate like other government entities, or should we operate as though we're trying to survive on the limited taxpayers' money that we get per year and the limited revenues that we're getting from the different capital investments that we have? I mean, we are being squeezed on all sides. So I have an issue with us running this as a government entity, which there's expectations that we are taking money from the taxpayers to subsidize the operation. Well, we get $260,000 per year from the taxpayers on a $1.4 million budget. So I don't think that we can be considered a fully government operated entity. So we are more private than we are government. So to me, I think we need to be thinking as far as private entrepreneurism, trying to keep our port afloat, if you don't mind the pun, with the reducing revenues that we're receiving from the public and the increasing expenses that we're deriving from the private sector. So I think that we need, at least in my opinion, make a determination, are we going to run this as a profit-generating entity? And I speak softly profit, because we really need to start developing a capital reserve so that we can fund the $20 million worth of assets that we have on the books. So we do need to be competitive,
Yes.
And I think that's the point. We need to be competitive.
but being competitive doesn't necessarily mean that we reduce our rates to the lowest possible common denominator.
That's not competitive.
I don't think we're being.
That's not what we're even being asked to do, though.
Oh, yeah.
Here we're talking about reservations.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
so two things are going
Well-
on.
let's-
Yeah, so this issue is
Yeah,
the time
reservations,
frame.
reservations, right.
So Hercules can't accept the 1 year in advance. Simple matter. Let's get rid of Hercules and pay someone. We have enough office staff. Pay them to do it.
Well,
You want to get back to private
Yep.
operation? I don't know what we pay Hercules, but it can't be cheap.
well, it's a monthly fee because it's a web-based software. And
may I ask
it's
how
only
much-
like $200 a month, but it's a huge computer program that keeps a guest base. It keeps a grid of who's in what spots, and it's just basically a management tool
That
to.
allows
Whether-
people to make reservations offline, don't have to call us, they can do it online.
But there must be other cloud-based reservation systems that we could investigate and possibly transition to that would accommodate our unique needs.
Mhm.
You know, I
And
just
we are-
started a yoga studio, and I noticed that there's several dozen different softwares out there, and I had to fine-tune which one I wanted based upon my needs.
Mhm. And we are looking into alternatives for
If
down the road.
Hercules isn't accommodating the December group.
No, hold on. The only
We
thing
didn't
it's
say
not
that.
accommodating is the time frame. It's a computer
Then it's not
program. That's
accommodating
what
then.
I'm talking about right now.
Yes.
It's just If,
And let's
if we
save the
say
$200
that
a
you
month.
can reserve a year and ahead, or 9 months ahead, or 2 years ahead, it can do that. It needs a time parameter.
Okay. I don't have a problem with time, but I definitely want the December group to have first choice.
You bet.
But that is not the question on this, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay.
This is just reviewing this, and this, again, is just for discussion tonight. I'm just
Okay.
telling you what we are encountering with the existing reservation policy. So we can,
Bill?
It seems to me that the software should have a function that allows people to be members based upon certain criteria. Once they're members, then they should be able to access the software that allows them the extension of reservation possibility. I don't see where this is a very difficult task as far as programming.
what we do is we just override, we are able to override the existing
Okay.
parameters for special.
Okay, so we have criteria that creates the December members. You have to have been a loyal customer for X amount of
For
time.
3 years,
3 years.
staying 1 month or more per year.
Okay, so we have the in-house ability to override Hercules to keep the December members program going without necessarily extending that special opportunity to non-December members into the prime period. So I think there's a deeper issue going on here that we need to talk about that is really motivating this.
Well, this is just a programming issue versus a policy that we have set up. It's an easy fix, but and I think we're bringing a little bit more of the other things into it. But I can try to, I don't know how, I sent this to you a few weeks ago for your
Well, distilled
review.
down to its basics.
Yeah.
So if,
But
if
this can be operational too. This has nothing to do with the December members or the rates. This is just a programming issue where there's a conflict with the current policy. And this, you could actually make the call right now to turn this over to operations. I'm just sharing it with you tonight.
So what is on the table now is whether we want to fill in the blank.
Whether we want to change, one of the issues is to change the 2 years ahead to a different time frame.
I think we need to keep it where it is or expand it to maintain our customer loyalty.
The loyalty has nothing to do with this. This is a programming issue. So it probably, if you would read what I sent, I think it's explainable.
Okay.
The second, should I move on? Joe, did you want to say something?
One small thing, as a December member, when it was actually approached to this whole group to start with, Ron DeGroot was the one who proposed it. And what he said is that we had the month of December, from December 1 to December 31st. If you don't make your reservations during that time, you're out just like everybody else then.
Yeah.
And that makes sense.
And we're aware of
But
that.
what has been proposed and what has changed that we know of is as of December 1st, I call in at 8 o'clock. And I decide, well, I want Ron's spot. So I take his spot. Ron calls in at 8:05. Ron sees I got his spot, he takes somebody else's spot. The whole crux of the whole idea was you can only reserve your spot, not somebody else's, no more than one at that time period. That eliminates all of the hassle for the gals inside who are going to be going nuts if that doesn't stay that way. Everybody will be changing and going everywhere.
Does our
It
software
would be very difficult.
that for our internal staff and software to allow that type of scenario over a 2 or 3 year period?
Yeah, I mean, we can do a particular spot, but it's, you know, we have to input the data. I mean, it's pretty much a program, so.
And again, I'm a little bit fuzzy on what it is we're supposed to be deciding tonight.
Well, I'm just sharing with you some issues that we've encountered operationally, okay? Do you want to move on to problem two?
Yes. Yeah.
Problem two is in having 2 years advance reservation, and with the amount of deposits coming in, I just wanted to point out on the balance sheet that we have over $115,000 in the unearned revenue account. I just wanted to point that out. If you feel comfortable with that, fine, we can move on. That's just an enormous amount of money that we are holding in an account for, that is other people's money. Yes.
I don't have a problem with that.
I
Go ahead.
have an issue with if we're spending that money on today's expenses.
That is operational money.
We're getting $110,000 for future services, and that money is being spent in today's
Falsely
operation.
inflating our budget.
Well, it's also falsely inflating our revenue for the current year.
I think that's what he meant.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you mean, okay.
My proposal was to put that unearned income into a separate bank account, have it draw interest, and then either on a quarterly or semi-annual basis, we take that money out based upon the earned aspect. So that we're not using that revenue to fund current operations, because I can see this to be a real problem down the road. So I would like to say that we should have a policy change, that we take that unearned revenue, put it into a separate account, bank account, that is interest earning, and then annually or semi-annually pull that out.
Nowadays.
Yeah, whatever that is. But
How
I'm
much
just
money are we talking about?
$115,000.
Oh, that much? Yeah.
And it's
And if you look at,
go up. We
if you
should
look at
do
the
that,
balance sheet, you can see what money we're
Yeah.
holding, and that's a nice chunk of it.
I think I agree.
But
We're not
what
gonna
are
make
the
a lot on
what are the
interest.
connotations if we do that this year
Separate it,
to the
don't
balance
use it.
sheet?
Set an
Well,
accounting-
pull up your balance sheet and, do the math. Right now, I think we have $350,000 approximately,
So that'll reduce it by,
and that
Yeah, by
reduces
that
it.
amount.
But that includes that 350 includes the capital reserve of 70.
I just think that moving forward.
No, I agree with you 100%. I don't do that very often, but I do in this case.
Just as I'm leaving.
It's a present.
Yeah, I appreciate
Alright.
that. So can we have a policy change next month? Or
We will propose that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will bring that.
start a separate bank account?
Okay.
And I'll show you the ramifications of that and how we do it and all
Or
that.
a, or a separate sub-account.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Well,
One is one or the other.
yeah,
Okay.
whatever.
Okay, next.
the third issue is the December members. So what started this was that our front office staff have encountered several, and I'm sorry, Joe, I do not have an exact number for you. You asked for how many people. There have been several people who call and they want to make reservations for the B row or the inner circle for 2016 and fishing season, and they're all taken, and they say, well, we are never ever going to get a B row spot. Right now for 2016 B row, for 2015, we're almost completely booked for September. 2016, the B row, which is the waterfront, is, I would say, 90% booked. So, and that's 2 seasons out. Were you going to say something?
When you're finished, I just wanted to.
Okay. Also, what Joe said that Mr. DeGroot said was, or when this was all proposed in 2013, was that the December members not only wanted a jump on being able to reserve sites before the general public, but they also wanted their specific sites.
Right.
And that did not get carried over into the policy. It was just the criteria was, to be a December member, you have to stay 3 consecutive years for 1 month or more per year.
Okay.
And that would make you eligible for the December members.
And
In a
by the-
particular site.
And by the way, it's
That
not,
didn't get in.
it's not going down, it's going up.
That was the
Yeah.
other, that's
The
the
amount
other
of people that are
issue.
doing that is going up. It's
Yes.
not going down.
I understand that.
And that is the other issue that is based on that criteria, that the December members is growing. It will grow. Right now we have 36. We anticipate another 7 to 10 after this season. And as this grows, this could become 80 people, 100 people, based on this criteria that we have already established. this is concerning to staff because we could see it's already competitive. It could mushroom on us and become a real problem. This is up for discussion. An alternative is to, if we decide to keep the December members, is to revise the criteria. So it's not a 3 consecutive year, 1 month. There's maybe some tighter parameters to consider. But we see this becoming a big issue, and already it's being hard to manage by staff.
Right. Bill?
As we have had numerous discussions about how difficult it has been for the port to make ends meet, particularly with putting a sufficient reserve together to take care of $20 million worth of assets, most of which are not revenue generating. And that which is not revenue generating, we rely upon government grants that are now requiring a 30% match, which we have no money. So the question the board is going to have to face in the coming years is, how are we going to make ends meet? If we're going to run this port as a quasi-private / public enterprise, should we not be basing our rates upon supply and demand? If there is a huge demand and limited supply, should we not consider the fees, the service charges, the rates that we're charging? And again, I'm trying to run this out through a logical process. If we have huge demand for these front row seats, should that not be a commodity that we should be able to sell at a higher price to help the port meet the ends? That's just it's not a rhetorical question, but it is just a basis by which we should make a discussion.
Well, that's the way business works.
That's the way most businesses work. Should our business work that way?
That isn't the way state parks.
That's not the way state, no, and we're not a state park. We are a port.
Nobody has different rates for people, different rates for people that have been here longer. Nobody does.
But at the same time, staff is identifying a problem,
Yeah,
a
this isn't
challenge.
front row in a baseball game at the World Series.
But it is a world-class river. There are very few rivers like this. I'm just
2
arguing,
months out of the year.
a process here of
But that's
trying to
what
make
we're
a
talking about. It's
determination.
2 months out of the
2 months per year, we have a huge demand and limited supply, and the port is having difficulty making ends meet. So,
Occupancy, if you have people here,
Yes.
that is, having a full campground, doesn't matter who's here.
Yeah.
So as soon as you can fill that campground, you've got as much money as you can get.
But there's a bigger expense every year for just the maintaining what we've got and the crew that we have.
Rates go up.
cost of living.
Rates go up.
Yeah.
everything goes up. And it's like, how do we keep up with that, plus pay for the millions of dollars of assets that we have been granted by the people, and yet we're not being given revenue to pay for that?
Or charge a launch fee.
Well, that's a very complicated issue on top of all of this.
Well, that's a different issue.
Yeah, totally different issue, but it's also very complicated. It's owned by 3 parties. I have no, the board, Mr. Chair, she has a.
Anyway, discussion?
I stayed at a campground one time and I was charged like a $5 power surcharge fee, or has the port ever, considered something like that? I mean, I'm just thinking about added, raising the parking fees. I don't think we're, we don't mind paying for the service. The people that come don't mind paying for the service. But to have the mortgage increase at such a huge rate in 1 year, that's harder to swallow.
So you're saying that the RV rates would not be too problematic, but the mortgage rates would be more problematic?
Well, I think maybe a smaller percentage of an increase would be more appropriate across the board, yeah.
And maybe just for the 2 months. Okay, we talked about just a 2-month window where the rates go up, which then gives us an opportunity to generate more revenue to help us pay for our ongoing expenses during the down period. I mean, this is what we're trying to reconcile here. Sitting in this seat, I see 2 months where we're making hay, and then 10 months where we're losing money.
Maybe we should work on trying to get the 10 months done.
You're exactly right, but we're weather dependent around here,
And fish.
and fish dependent.
Right.
So it's a balancing act here. I mean, I wish I could juggle more balls, but I can only do 3 at a time. I don't mean to dominate, so
What?
chime in.
You don't mean
Well,
to?
you have the longevity in here from over the rest of us.
And I know
And
that the
that's
previous
a good
boards
thing.
have been struggling with this, and there's been no resolution. At some point, you guys are gonna have to have a resolution on how you're gonna run this port. And I'm not trying to put anything in your pocket, but this has been an ongoing struggle. And I don't know how to make it more clear that there has to be a mindset that we're gonna run this, and we're gonna be a supply and demand based company, or are we going to be a public entity and we're going to just basically give it away at cost? And the cost is going to be huge because we're going to have the boardwalk project that we can't fund. We're going to have wharf project that we can't fund.
The bulkhead that
The
we
bulkhead we
can't do
can't
anything
fund.
with.
And the bulkhead is washing away the park.
These people are not gonna pay for the bulkhead. These people are going to come here and camp and try and enjoy themselves. I think that maybe that it is a scheduling problem. I do definitely want to give the December members their chance. And perhaps along the way, we might have to come to some other sort of an arrangement where they're a special gold member or something, and maybe they do have to pay a little bit more in order to do this. But I think we could work that out in the future.
Well, this is a process that needed to start somewhere.
Yes.
You know, and I did not expect any action tonight. I just wanted to present these issues.
Stir the pot.
I want to thank you.
No.
Yeah,
We don't say pot in Oregon.
yeah.
We do
And it's
that.
on until July 1st.
That's right.
July 1st you can.
Do we have an interview?
These issues will
Yeah.
continue at the next meeting
Yes.
Well,
with more
do you have anything
information.
you'd
No,
like
I
to
agree
add?
with you 100%, Ron.
To
Terry?
add, go ahead, Terry.
I'd just like to say that if you took that $260,000 worth of tax money out of our budget, we'd be broke.
Yeah.
So what are we doing trying to scare away the December members? Private industry wouldn't try to scare away customers. I've ran private business.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't raise your rates to be competitive. We have a commodity here. Let's get it filled up.
Well, and
It is filling
I
up,
just
that's
want
what we're
to
saying.
say that
2
it's
months out of
not,
the year.
we are not trying to scare the December members away. We appreciate our customers, and I have been very, in all of my responses, and I have responded to everyone who has provided input. I have thanked them, and this is an
Right.
issue that is an ongoing
Right.
discussion that has some problems administratively and operationally that I think we can eventually come to a positive.
Good.
Yeah, and
But
I've
it
been
has to
getting the
start
emails,
somewhere.
so I know what's going on. Everyone has.
Good.
Bill?
Again, going back to previous boards and this board, we have yet to come up with a full cost recovery process where we
Right.
take a look at every aspect that we do and what is it costing us to do that. Put that in the context of what our discussion is today and would help us make a decision on how we're going to move forward. But without a full cost recovery policy that has been implemented, where we have the data that shows us that this is what the costs are, we're kind of stabbing in the dark, I'm afraid to say. So, again, previous boards have struggled with this, and it's really a difficult challenge. It's not an easy thing.
And we've talked about that.
Yes, we have.
You aren't going to get full cost recovery out of your fuel.
And apparently, we're not getting full cost recovery out of a lot of things that we're doing.
The parking lot. We don't get full cost recovery out of the parking lot. I mean, full cost recovery is sort of this little pie in the sky
Right,
thing
right.
that
It ain't
really
gonna happen.
doesn't
No.
mean anything.
But first of all, First of all, full cost recovery is not a singular, it's a line item within an algorithm to figure out costs. It's not in and of itself
Right.
It's not
a
in
process,
and
right? It's not in and out. However, you need to do it to add to that
It's a
algorithm
function.
to get there.
It's a
You have
function
to.
that you look
And
at.
but when you're restricted, like with the parking lot, when you're restricted by Oregon State Marine Board, when you're restricted on
And
the
the
launch
ramp.
fee and the ramps on the launch, then your cost recovery really goes down.
And then throw in the $1.2 million for the bulkhead repair.
Yeah. So
Where's that gonna come from? What cash flow is that gonna come from?
but those are further conversations.
Yep.
That's all I
We'll
have.
cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay, let's move on. Reports. Let's see. You want to give us a
Sure.
report on Washington DC?
Yeah. Ugly place.
Yes.
Snow.
Beautiful buildings. We did our normal, the PNWA does, if you're not familiar with them, it's the Pacific Northwest Waterways Association. And they do a tremendous amount of lobbying for Washington, Oregon, and most of the Northern California groups. And has some Canadian members, and it's represents 99 ports, a few different industry members, the Columbia Pilots Group, some steamship groups and things. So it's a huge organization that spends many hours lobbying on behalf of different waterway processes. The WRDA bill, which was the Water Recovery Act, Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund that was in there. And they are continually looking to pull money into the different, how the money is used with ports. They're the ones that got set aside, 10% set aside for small ports out of that Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund. And it's primarily a lobby to get monies from the government in the budget, line item budgets, to go to the Corps of Engineers, who actually does all the work for the ports when it comes to jetties, bars, dredges, that sort of thing. And so this year we met with every representative, Senate and Congress of Washington, Oregon, a couple from Idaho, and 2 from Northern California in a 3-day period. So it's quite a task, as Ron can tell you. It's to do with. I specifically, on top of that, met privately with Peter DeFazio, and then with the staff. Ron had to vote, so he wasn't there, so we met with Ron Wyden's staff members over specific things that we were looking at, which are really not much different than what all small ports on the Oregon coast are looking at. Dredge money, when, if ever, they're going to work on a process of jetties, that sort of thing, which, when we know the hundreds of millions of dollars in jetty repairs that are required. So it's a lobbying group that goes in. These representatives, instead of seeing 1 or 2 people from Minnesota or something, are coming into a room of 71 people, 73 people at a time, that are saying, we're here to listen to what you're going to do for our voting area. And so it works out pretty well. Each of the years that we've gone back, John Scott, Ron Caputo, and then me this year, we've seen, and the lobby group seems to get us, it's averaging about $120,000 a year increased budget to the Corps in just our area. So it's hard not to go, although it's really expensive to do it. And the trip back there is astronomical. Even when you get great rates because of the organization, you're into $320 a night just for the hotel kind of thing. So you try to cram as much work into it as possible, because it's certainly not cheap. The total cost recovery on that ought to be looked at. But I think we did very well. We got the ear of the right people. They're usually very accommodating, come in. What's striking to me, not ever dealing with politicians before, really too much for up until the last 3 years, was that each one of them, regardless of what side of the aisle they're on, come in and say, you're absolutely right, these are the problems that we're having, and we got to resolve these issues. Then the Republican comes in and says, you're absolutely right, we got to resolve these issues. And the Democrat comes in and says, you're right, we got to resolve these issues. And you want to stand up and go, then do it. I mean, and they all have the same resolution. They all say, this is how we can fix it. Well, then wait a minute, because in 30 minutes, this guy's going to come in and you guys could fix it.
Hook up and make it
Yeah,
work.
so it really gets frustrating, but at the same time, we understand it's, a little bit more complicated than that. It doesn't seem like it should have to be. But it was a very good trip. It was the last day, I have to tell you, the last day was funny because they were expecting a huge storm in, and it hit north and south, but DC got about 4 to 6 inches of snow, and the Pacific Northwest contingencies and their representatives were the only ones in town. Everybody left because they were afraid of this huge snowstorm. And I think it delayed us at the airport like 40 minutes so they could de-ice something, and that was it. But anybody else in any other part of the country was gone. But we're sitting there stomping through what little bit of snow there really was. So it was an interesting trip. Enjoyed it, and I think it's well worth the time. I like to see one of you other guys get to go sometime and really witness how powerful the PNWA really is.
Thank you, Bob. Nancy, you have anything to report?
Nothing new except the watershed meeting. I did go last month,
Okay.
and they have an interesting one coming up showing anyone who's interested what they do with the kids in the camps and the fish. Yeah, that's next Wednesday night.
Is that part of your step group, Ron?
What?
I mean, do the kids? It's the same
Well,
kids.
we
who go
work
through?
with the kids also, and we actually help with their program during
Oh,
the
okay.
summer, yes. Jane Essie.
Oh yeah.
Good evening, Ron and Bob. In response to your letter to Kathy McEwen in January, she proposed a law, H.R. 3104.
Haven't got there yet.
Well, I apologize.
Oh, okay.
So I was looking for a report about that. Maybe after he's finished talking about it, I might say something else.
Yeah, I received it, and apparently they've there's a bill in the House that she's submitted concerning, I don't even remember right now.
The Senate bill that we drafted and co-wrote and sent up to Representative McEwen's office was a request for. It started off as a can you open up your minds to ORS 777 that our lawyers continually tell us that the only thing that we can do is what is stated in that ORS. My feeling is the opposite. If it doesn't tell us that we can't do it, we should be able to do it. And typically our legal counsel disagrees with that theory. Many ports, just when they go to projects, just don't talk to their legal counsel and go do that, and I feel uncomfortable in that because I want their buy-in should something go wrong and they have to defend it. So we ask Caddy's office to put in some legislation. We gave an example of one of the possibilities that we have with our 40 acres was that there's a possibility that that we might be able to encourage companies to land high-speed cable there for different various telecommunications processes, and we would like to have the right to do that, even though ORS 777 doesn't have that in it, and it was written before that technology was there in the first place. So they drafted a short bill. It's on the table. It goes on the 25th. I plan on driving up there to testify in front of the committee.
Caddy's committee.
Caddy's committee, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that, we can, I guess there's been some, a little bit of backlash from the telecommunications companies, which you would
course.
expect, but our intent, in any port's intent, quite honestly, on this coast, should be, wait a minute, if they want to land their cable on there, then I would think the cable companies would enjoy that
Yeah.
and be able to do business. So
Yeah.
we'll go up there and
Good.
do that, but
I'm
it's,
glad you're going.
yeah.
Anybody else have anything else? I want to report on the fish cleaning station. We had the final inspection today. The fish cleaning station was put in by the Florence Salmon Trout Enhancement Program through a grant through the R&E Board for $26,000. We got final inspection, turned the keys over to the port today. The port has not come up with a plan of operation for it yet. I know that there's still some lighting and some security issues that have to be done. I know it'll be open daily during salmon season. It might now only be open on call if you want to come and especially clean your fish there. This time of year, there's not very many fishermen except for David. And if he wants to use it, I'm sure they'll have a key here in the office so he can get in there to use it.
We may rent it, do I?
Rent it time.
Yeah, rent it to them.
Yeah, full cost recovery.
$1,000 a minute.
Yeah. Okay, I think with that, we will close the regular session and open the executive session.
Do we have like a 10-minute recess?
We can have a
Fine.
5-minute recess, yes.